I never even wanted to download the app. That's the chilling part when I look back. The entire idea wasn't mine. I was barely a year out of college, still tucked away in a shared apartment on Brookwell's east side with Bri, a friend I'd known since our sophomore year. She was a whirlwind of the latest fads, from obscure protein powders to infrared saunas and, of course, dating apps. "You're going to wither away alone if you don't even try, Lena," she declared one evening, sprawled across our worn couch, idly scrolling through her own matches. "You never go out, you don't drink, and you still cling to that flip phone for emergencies." "I do have a smartphone," I shot back, though a part of me knew she wasn't entirely wrong. I'd endured precisely 2 dates that year, both agonizing dances of forced politeness and awkward silences. A deep-seated wariness was etched into my very being. Some might have called it paranoia, but my upbringing had forged me this way. My single mother had double locks on every window and never permitted me to walk home alone. By the time I hit my 20s, that caution had become a thick filter through which I perceived the world. I didn't just stumble into situations, I meticulously assessed, researched, and controlled every possible variable. Online dating felt like the ultimate surrender of control, yet my options for connection were virtually non-existent. So that night, I caved. Tinder was an absolute non-starter, but I sought something more understated. I settled on an app named Chatter, which promised genuine connections and a thorough profile setup. My logic was simple. If someone bothered to answer questions and craft a real profile, perhaps they weren't just seeking a fleeting encounter. I uploaded 2 unassuming photos, one in a sweater, and penned a brief, uninspired bio. Then, I waited. I should reveal a crucial truth about myself. I've always harbored an irrational, gut-wrenching fear of men. I call it irrational because no one had ever attacked me, assaulted me, or stalked me, at least not then. But from the moment I understood what fear felt like, it would ignite around certain individuals. It wasn't about their appearance, clothes, or even their actions. It was a visceral tightening in my chest, a flush of heat behind my ears. It was an internal alarm telling me when to cross the street or choose the longer path home. My mother called it women's intuition. But I often wondered if it was simply hypervigilance honed by a lifetime of caution. Still, I plunged into this dating world armed with strict rules. Never reveal my full name. Never share my social media, never agree to meet unless I initiated it. Always inform Bri of my whereabouts. Always meet in public. Simple rules, and they made me feel strangely secure. At first, nothing truly materialized. A parade of men opened with bizarre compliments or dull greetings. I exchanged a few messages here and there, but most conversations withered after a day or two. Then Evan appeared. Evan's profile was refreshingly clean. A few selfies, all of them radiating a warm, casual vibe. A picture with a dog, which he claimed was his sister's. Another at a lively food truck festival. One more against the iconic Chicago skyline. He was handsome in a reassuringly non-threatening way. A soft jawline, glasses, a slightly crooked smile. His bio read, "Not here to waste time. I'd rather know your favorite smell than your astrological sign. Introvert reader. Lame dad jokes included." It felt safe, humorous, and wonderfully normal. I messaged first, "Favorite smell?" He replied almost instantly, "Fresh coffee. Also, wood smoke is a great pick. You have good taste." We exchanged messages for over 2 hours that night. It was the kind of conversation that flowed effortlessly, a natural current of shared books, detested foods, and mortifying teenage memories. He spoke of his graphic design job, his small but cozy rented apartment, and his mother's fascination with tarot cards. It was personal without being overwhelming, and crucially, he never pushed. That, more than anything, coaxed my guard down. After 2 days of constant chatting, he asked if I was comfortable exchanging numbers. I hesitated, a familiar wave of caution washing over me. But then I reasoned, he hasn't been weird at all and I can always block him. So I said yes. We transitioned to texting. It was pleasant. Nothing overtly flirty or creepy, just a steady, enjoyable stream of conversation. One morning, he sent me a photo of a fox caught mid-stride crossing the street in front of his office. One evening, our conversation drifted for an hour, lost in the world of old childhood cartoons. Then, a sudden request: he wanted my Instagram handle. I hadn't ever brought up Instagram. My presence there was minimal, mainly for following artists and a handful of close friends. My profile was locked down, private, and my username was a tricky variation of my middle name, making it nearly impossible to find. "Why my Instagram?" I typed back, a flicker of unease stirring. "Just curious," he responded swiftly. "I like to see more of the people I'm talking to." It sounded reasonable, but my gut told me no. I firmly replied that I wasn't ready to share it. What he said next froze me in place, a phrase etched into my memory forever. "I already know everything I need to know about you anyway." My eyes were glued to the screen for a solid minute, my mind racing. "Wait, what do you mean?" I finally managed to type. Silence stretched between us. He didn't reply instantly. Then came his chilling explanation. "I work in tech. I know how to dig when I need to." "Don't worry, you're not a catfish. You're exactly who you say you are. That's rare." My throat seized up, my hands started to shake uncontrollably. A cold dread seeped into my bones, twisting something deep inside me. "How do you know that?" I demanded, barely able to form the words. He listed the evidence, a cold, precise inventory. "You use the same username on Tumblr and Pinterest, just a few guesses. You even posted a photo at Brookwell Central Library last week. Oh, and you love posting pictures of cats in birthday hats." I hadn't shared my location. I hadn't breathed a word about those old accounts. Most unsettling, I barely even used those sites anymore. It felt as if an invisible shadow had been tracking my every move. The primal fear that had lurked in my gut since childhood erupted, a deafening roar. I fired back, telling him his actions were invasive, utterly creepy, that he had stomped over a sacred boundary. His reply was a chilling torrent of ha-ha-ha in all caps, a mocking, endless laughter that wasn't funny at all. Then came more messages, paragraphs of them. He ranted about how women lie online, how he was simply ensuring I was real. He even dared to suggest I should feel flattered by his effort. I stopped replying, but my phone wouldn't stop screaming that night. Over 100 messages poured in. Some were rambling, furious rants. Others were just my name, repeated endlessly. Then, photos of places I'd recently visited, clearly plucked from my social media. None of them contained outright threats, but the sheer, relentless volume felt like a suffocating attempt to invade my mind, to overwhelm me, to drown me in a torrent of digital noise. At 2:18 a.m., one final text arrived. "I'd never hurt you. You're special. I'm not like other guys. I just see you." That was the precise moment the truth hit me. My fear wasn't about his words anymore. It was about what he might do. The next morning, I poured everything out to Bri, showing her every message. She immediately suggested calling the police. But what exactly would I report? He hadn't issued a single threat. He hadn't shown up at my door. He had simply found me online. I raced to my cell provider and had his number blocked at its source. Then, I changed my own number entirely. I deleted Chatter, purged my old Tumblr, locked down my Pinterest, swapped my Instagram handle for something unrecognizable, and finally, deactivated it. Then came the agonizing wait, days turning into weeks. I found myself constantly checking my rearview mirror, my eyes scanning for any sign of him outside my building, but he never reappeared. The deepest scar was the profound violation I felt. I hadn't been physically harmed, yet it felt as if someone had flayed my skin open, exposing every raw nerve. He hadn't needed to force his way in or hack a single thing. He simply used what the world had offered him. I quit online dating cold turkey. For years afterward, I couldn't trust anything that seemed too good to be true. Even now, stepping into a cafe or waiting in line at the grocery store, a chilling thought sometimes grips me. Asterisk, is someone in this crowd looking at me, thinking, I know everything about her? Asterisk, it takes so little now. Just a name, a picture, a moment of dedicated digging. If there's one lesson etched into my soul, it's this: danger doesn't always wear a menacing face. It's not just the shadow on a dark street or the drunk at the bar. Sometimes it's the charming guy with the slightly crooked smile, the one who crafts the perfect words, the one who shows no warning signs until his true nature is revealed, and by then, it's too late. He isn't lurking in your rearview mirror, he's already inside your phone. Looking back to 2005, the world of dating was different. Apps, as we know them, didn't exist. There was no swiping, no algorithms predicting soulmates. Instead, it was all websites: Match, Calm, eHarmony, Plenty of Fish. I gravitated towards Match, believing it was for serious connections, not just fleeting encounters or strange characters, or so I was led to believe. Back in 2005, the whole world of dating felt different. Apps were still futuristic concepts. Instead, it was all websites like Match, Calm, eHarmony, and Plenty of Fish. I gravitated towards Match, clinging to the idea that it was for serious connections, not just fleeting encounters or strange characters, or so I desperately wanted to believe. I was 27, caught between the nagging whisper of loneliness and the loud drumbeat of societal expectations. Most of my friends were either getting married or diving headfirst into demanding careers. My days in HR for a mid-sized printing company in Greensboro, North Carolina, were a neat, predictable path, safe and quiet, but nights stretched long and silent. My online profile was brutally honest. No fake hobbies, no exaggerated passions. I laid bare my love for books like White Oleander and The Secret History *, my strange obsession with old crime shows, and my absolute inability to cook anything beyond toast. 3 weeks later, his message popped up. His profile claimed his name was Nathan, a name I now suspect was just another deception. One polished, brightly lit photo showed a man with a strong jaw, short dark hair, and glasses. He looked like he belonged in a university lecture hall or a sleek tech office. Posed against an ivy-covered wall, wearing a crisp dark sweater and khakis, he seemed utterly harmless, almost too perfect, like a scene from a catalog. But I was foolishly hopeful and desperately lonely, and I messaged him back. Our initial conversations were slow, almost bland. We talked about my job, shared jokes about terrible movies, and complained about office coffee. It was so incredibly normal that I convinced myself he had to be safe. I deliberately overlooked the odd, stilted way he wrote. I ignored his vague answers when I tried to ask about his own life: work keeps me busy, or I'm in between places right now. After 2 weeks, he finally asked to meet. A wave of hesitation washed over me, but I pushed it down and agreed. We chose Maple and Birch, a trendy spot downtown that had just opened. I got there first, my heart hammering against my ribs, and ordered a cranberry vodka to steady my nerves. He arrived 10 minutes late. The instant my eyes landed on him, my stomach plunged. He was nothing like his picture. The man walking towards me was gaunt, his hair noticeably thinner, and his nose sharply curved to one side. He looked pale, jumpy, blinking constantly as if the light was too harsh. His shirt was creased, his shoes scuffed and cheap, but the most jarring part, he didn't even acknowledge the stark difference. "Hey, you must be Lena," he said, sliding into the seat beside me with an unsettling familiarity as if we were old friends. "Yeah, hey," I managed, my voice tight. "You're Nathan." He flashed a wide grin. "Of course, you're even prettier than your photos." I didn't reply, just took a long, fortifying sip of my drink, reminding myself I could leave after just one. But he wouldn't let me. Every time my glass was half empty, he'd flag down the bartender for another. He even sweet-talked the bartender into doing shots with us, a disgusting cinnamon concoction that burned its way down my throat. He laughed too loud, leaned too close, his presence suffocating. Somewhere between the fourth and fifth drink, a hazy, sickening realization hit me. I was far too drunk. "Hey," I slurred, pushing my glass away. "I think I'm done for the night." He paid the bill in cash, no card, no trace, and offered to walk me to my car. When I told him I'd taken a cab, he insisted on driving me home instead. I should have refused. Every instinct screamed no, but my head was spinning and his persistence wore me down. The 8-minute drive to my duplex was eerily silent. I stared at the blurring yellow lines on the road, fighting back nausea. When he finally pulled up outside my house, he didn't unlock the doors. Instead, he turned to me, a leering grin spreading across his face. "So, you want to fool around a bit before you head in?" My skin went instantly cold. "Let me out," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Come on," he chuckled, leaning closer, his breath hot and reeking of whiskey and cheap cologne. "You've been flirting with me for weeks." "Don't tell me you're backing out now." "Let me out," I repeated, louder this time. He sighed, his hand still clamped on the lock button. "I just don't get why you'd waste my time if you weren't planning to put out." "That's all I'm saying." I was quiet. The street was deserted. A few porch lights flickered across the way, but no one was visible. When he finally hit the unlock button, I practically lunged for the door, stumbling onto the sidewalk and slamming it shut behind me. "Whatever," I heard him mutter as I scrambled away. I sprinted away, ignoring his vulgar insult, and flung myself through my front door. The lock clicked shut with a deafening finality, and I collapsed onto the cold floor, gasping, needing 10 agonizing minutes to reclaim my breath. The following morning, a bouquet of roses lay on my back step, a sickly, sweet gesture. His clumsy handwriting on the card read, "Sorry about last night, I had too much to drink." "Please forgive me, Nathan." I stared at the wilting petals, a knot tightening in my stomach, before tossing them into the bin. But the unsettling procession had only just begun. Every few days, another item materialized: a box of chocolates, a book I'd once mentioned, a scented candle, a plush bear, each accompanied by an apology, each signed with his name as if we shared a bond. The gifts swiftly morphed from merely strange to deeply disturbing. One day, a pair of earrings. Another, a bottle of the exact perfume I'd worn in high school, a brand I had never, ever mentioned to him. A horrifying realization slammed into me. He must have sifted through my trash, or, far worse, he had been watching me, a silent, unseen presence. I hoarded his unsettling notes in a drawer, a morbid collection. Reporting him to the police felt impossible, a bitter pill of shame I couldn't swallow. How could I confess I'd been so easily duped, that I'd gotten drunk and allowed a total stranger to drive me straight to my own doorstep? I'd essentially handed my address, a blueprint to my safe haven, directly to a predator. Instead, I confided in my brother. Despite living 40 minutes away, he arrived promptly, replacing every lock. He even installed a simple motion-activated camera on the back porch. It rarely captured anything significant: a squirrel sometimes, once a fleeting, indistinct shadow that might have been him. The relentless parade of gifts continued, chipping away at my sanity until I finally broke. A forgotten Polaroid camera, tucked away in my closet, surfaced in my mind. I retrieved it, loaded the film, and placed it on my nightstand. From a drawer, I pulled my .380 pistol, a gift from my father after a terrifying break-in at my old apartment, and laid it on my pillow. With a click, I captured the stark image: white sheets, a gleaming silver gun bathed in soft light. Across the bottom, I scrawled a chilling message in red Sharpie: "Next time you step on my property, this will be the last thing you see." I sealed the Polaroid in an envelope and left it precisely where he always deposited his twisted tokens. The following morning, the envelope was gone, and he never returned. 3 years later, my husband, Darren, and I were at a steakhouse, eerily close to Maple and Birch. As we waited for our drinks, my gaze snagged on a lone figure at the bar. It was him. Older, balding, his cheeks hollowed, the same twisted nose, the same unsettling pale eyes. He seemed diminished, shrunken. He saw me. Darren, who knew every horrific detail of that period, noticed the shift in my expression. Without a word, my husband rose, his gaze locking onto the man. Nathan, or whatever his real name truly was, snatched his bill, tossed down some cash, and vanished without a sound. I felt no triumph, no surge of bravery. Only a chilling emptiness, because I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that somewhere another woman had likely just matched with a similar deceitful profile. And I prayed with all my might that she wouldn't make the same mistake of accepting a ride home. My childhood held no room for fairy tales. My mother toiled through double shifts just to put food on our table, and my father was a phantom, his presence marked only by prison visits. I learned early not to expect magic or a knight in shining armor. Yet, like countless girls with aching hearts in silent bedrooms, I still harbored a fragile hope that someone, somewhere, might genuinely *C* me, not the weary girl in baggy hoodies. Not the timid cashier bagging groceries at the Piggly Wiggly on Hill Street. I yearned for someone to look beyond the invisible version of me and whisper, "You matter." The year was 1998, and online dating remained a strange, almost forbidden frontier. Not quite embraced, not quite condemned, simply new, shrouded in mystery, and perhaps, though unspoken, dangerous. I had just graduated high school in Raleigh, North Carolina, still sharing a duplex with my mom and younger sister, a place perpetually scented with mildew and pine. At 18, I spent countless late nights glued to the family computer, venturing into chat rooms and fledgling dating sites like Matchmaker, Calm, and One and Only. I kept this secret even from my best friend Carrie. She would have been horrified. That's when I encountered Shane, or at least that was the name he offered. He messaged me deep one night after I'd posted in a local North Carolina chat thread. His username, WanderingSoul79. His profile featured a grainy snapshot of him beside a dog, possibly a golden retriever, his face largely obscured by shadow. He claimed to be 22. The truth, I'd discover later, was a cruel deception. At the time, he seemed charming, sharp, his words flowing like dark poetry. He claimed Charlotte as his home, but was staying with friends in Raleigh. He told me I possessed an ancient spirit, that my love for counting crows meant I deeply felt the world. I should have seen the warning signs, but when you've never truly known love, even a meager spark feels like a raging inferno. Our first meeting came 2 weeks later at a diner on Morgan Street. He was older, not barely older as he'd said, not 22, but closer to 26, perhaps 28. A hardened edge clung to him, ink snaking up his forearms, a cigarette tucked behind one ear. Yet when he smiled, he looked like a character from a dark, artistic movie. It was utterly captivating, melting my doubts. "I didn't lie," he chuckled when I challenged his untruth. "I just didn't want you to dismiss me, and I, foolishly, didn't. Oh, how I wish I had." For the next year, Shane and I danced a dizzying tango of on-again, off-again flings, mostly through summer and fall. I'd ignore him when he'd vanish for weeks, only to find myself drawn back by the gnawing ache of solitude. It was a fleeting game until one night it became terribly, irrevocably real. That December, he appeared outside my job at Food Lion, clutching a single wilting rose and a simple box of cherry Pop-Tarts. "I want to be with you," he declared, "for real, not just fooling around." The air bit with winter's cruel teeth. My hands shook, but not from the icy grip of winter, and with a whisper, I sealed my fate. As spring slowly awakened, I was still living at home, but spending almost every night at his place, a decrepit rental tucked away behind a grimy pawn shop. I was still working part-time and applying to Wake Tech, struggling to keep all the spinning plates in the air. He, on the other hand, drifted from one dead-end job to another, dishwasher at a bar, warehouse work. He either walked out or was tossed aside, always finding a scapegoat. "People don't like me 'cause I don't bow down," he'd declare, a plume of smoke curling from his lips. Initially, it was merely sharp words. I'd push him to apply for jobs or clean up, and he'd fall into a dark, brooding silence. But soon, the arguments twisted into venomous accusations. "Why did you wear that dress? Trying to parade yourself for your boss? Why did it take so long to get home from work? Who were you sneaking around with?" I'd force a hollow laugh, telling myself, "He's simply afraid." I poured more of myself into trying to satisfy him. I thought if my love could just be vast enough, strong enough, it would heal him. A few months after my 18th birthday, I made the final, fateful leap and moved in completely. I thought it would be a new chapter, filled with the promise of romance. Instead, it felt like a coffin lid slowly closing over me. Wake Tech welcomed me, and I took evening courses while juggling two grueling jobs. He'd spend his days lost in a haze of sleep and smoke, erupting in furious outbursts if I arrived home even minutes late. "You think you're better than me now?" he hissed one night, sending a bowl of spaghetti crashing to the floor. Another time, he hurled my precious textbooks out the open window during an argument. "If school's more important," he sneered, "then go make love to your books at the library." My voice grew softer, my clothes drabber, my explanations to friends about my exhaustion more elaborate, more false. The first blow landed because I dared to laugh at a television show while his angry words filled the room. His fist connected with my arm, a reflex, he claimed. "It's not abuse if you brought it upon yourself," he later whispered, and in my brokenness, I swallowed that poisoned lie whole. The news of my pregnancy sent me into a silent, weeping heap on the bathroom floor for hours. At first, a strange, twisted excitement flickered in his eyes, or perhaps it was the ultimate thrill of absolute power. He ran his fingers through my hair, a chilling whisper against my ear, "Now I truly have you. You are bound to me forever." There was no joy for me, only a cold, consuming terror. Our son arrived in the deepest chill of winter, a January so brutal the pipes screamed and the air burned with ice. The instant my eyes met his, a fierce, protective love erupted within me. I swore a silent vow: my child would never witness the monster his father truly was. A promise I clung to with every fiber of my being for as long as I possibly could. The night that would shatter my world began with an unsettling hush. Shane had vanished for the evening with Troy, a shadowy figure I barely knew but had seen around a few times. They reappeared late, a silent snowfall blanketing the world outside. I sat in the dim living room, rocking our infant, the muted drama of ER flickering on the screen. He stumbled in, a toxic mix of liquor and drugs clouding his mind. His grin was empty, his eyes unfocused, vacant. "This house stinks of," he slurred, a foul cloud of words. "I just changed the baby," I murmured, my voice a fragile plea. I muttered something about the diaper bag. He cut me off with a chilling, humorless laugh, the kind that always preceded his rage. "Always an answer, aren't you?" he sneered, closing the distance between us. "Always some damn excuse." Troy, his friend, lingered by the door, beer in hand, a picture of stark discomfort. I instinctively scooped up my baby, clutching him tight against my chest. That was the moment Shane utterly lost control. He roared accusations I can no longer recall, something about me shattering his life. Then he lunged. I tried to flee, but there was no escape. I thrust my precious baby boy into Troy's arms, my voice a desperate plea. Please, just keep him safe. Turning back, I braced myself for the inevitable, taking the first brutal impact. He seized my hair with such force I felt strands tear from my scalp, then slammed me against the wall, a searing pain. A vicious kick to my ribs sent me sprawling to the floor, gasping for air, the metallic tang of blood filling my mouth. Scrambling desperately, I clawed my way towards the living room, towards the old landline. In a fleeting moment of sheer, desperate will, I snatched the phone and punched 911 before he could rip it from my grasp. The phone crashed against my face, my lip instantly splitting open. His hands closed around my throat, squeezing until the world dissolved into a dizzying swirl of black and silver. "I'm going to kill you," he hissed, his voice a venomous whisper. I mean it this time, and I, in that fading moment, truly believed him. Then, a sudden, thunderous pounding, a frantic knocking. Dazed and barely conscious, I heard the front door swing open. Troy must have left it unlatched. Shane, ever the liar, tried to charm the officers, claiming everything was perfectly fine, that the baby was just fussy. But then I stumbled into their sight, bloodied, barefoot, my lip torn, one eye grotesquely swollen. The officer's face, etched with grim shock, is a memory I'll carry forever. He uttered no words, simply seized Shane and slammed him against the porch railing with brutal force. The aftermath was a blur, flashing lights, sirens, officers, paramedics, endless questions, and the cold click of cameras. A doctor later informed me I had a punctured lip and a hairline fracture in my cheekbone. "You were lucky," he said, his words chilling. "You could have died." An officer, his voice heavy, confessed I was the most severely beaten victim he'd ever encountered who was still alive. The very next day, Shane called from jail. His words, burned into my memory, were, "Why'd you do this?" No apology, no concern for my injuries, only venomous blame. He received a sentence of merely 26 days in county jail. He served not a single one. He vanished, fleeing to Georgia before they could even drag him back. Months later, he resurfaced. Messages appeared, notes on my windshield, even a chilling appearance outside my new apartment, but I stood firm. I refused to break, refused to return to that hell. Eventually, he moved on. I desperately wish I could say that was the end, but the next young woman wasn't so fortunate. Her name was Rebecca. I didn't know her, but I saw the news report. He beat her, choked her, leaving her lifeless in a rented trailer in Mon. He was finally apprehended, sentenced to life. The newspaper photo revealed the same man who had once kissed my forehead, brought me Pop-Tarts, and whispered declarations of love. But his eyes were utterly devoid of emotion. He had always vowed he'd feel nothing if he killed me. He was true to his word. I barely survived. My son is grown now, mercifully spared the memory of those early, horrific days. I've shared some truths with him, not everything, but just enough. I'm married to a wonderful man, a man who doesn't recoil when my voice rises, who never, ever makes me feel insignificant. Yet some nights I still jolt awake, gasping for breath. I still hear the phone splintering against my face. I still feel his hands tightening around my throat. That's the brutal truth of trauma. It doesn't simply vanish. It stops bleeding, yes, but the scars, they remember everything, and so do I. I'd never been one for dating apps. It wasn't a matter of superiority, but rather a deep-seated caution born from countless unsettling tales shared by friends. Plus, I held a fondness for old-fashioned connections, genuine conversations, palpable chemistry, interactions that unfolded face-to-face, not through the sterile glow of a screen. But by 2013, the pressure was relentless. My closest friend, Nina, was deeply involved with someone from Plenty of Fish. Another friend had just announced her engagement to a man she'd met on OK Sid. Everyone made it seem effortlessly simple. So, on a particularly dreary Wednesday evening, weary of solitary dinners and perpetually being the third wheel at game nights, I finally gave in. I signed up for Zab, a new app gaining popularity in our region. It boasted a clean, minimalist design of purple and white, featuring a Tinder-esque swipe function but without the notorious reputation for superficiality. It promised authentic connections for real individuals. I told myself I'd just explore, perhaps exchange a few messages, if only to show I was trying. That's when I matched with her. Her name was Carrara. Her appearance was unassuming blonde hair, green eyes, a gentle smile. She had that approachable girl-next-door charm, utterly devoid of pretense. Her profile listed a fondness for indie films, an unusual aversion to tattoos, and a preference for cozy evenings indoors over bustling parties. She held a job as a dental receptionist downtown. There were no wild party pictures, no revealing bikini poses, no distorting filters, just gentle lighting and sensible cardigans. Carrara radiated an undeniable sense of security. Our conversations spanned roughly 3 days. Her messages were courteous, occasionally a touch clumsy, peppered with an abundance of emojis and lol. Crucially, she posed authentic questions and never veered into unsettling territory. That alone set her apart. By Saturday, we'd made plans to meet. I chose a local Raleigh eatery called The Landing, a casual Americana place, complete with a vintage aircraft suspended from the ceiling and comfortable faux leather booths. I'd only visited once before. It wasn't upscale, but it offered a neutral, public, brightly lit space with agreeable food. Arriving a few minutes ahead of time, dressed in my typical date night attire, a button-down, jeans, and clean sneakers, I was surprised by a flutter of nerves. Perhaps Carrara's online normalcy felt almost too perfect, too good to be genuinely real. Then she appeared. She wore a soft blue dress and flat shoes with only a hint of mascara. Her hair was neatly gathered in a simple braid. She mirrored her photos almost perfectly, yet in person, she seemed even more fragile, like a delicate porcelain doll poised to shatter. "Hi, David," she greeted, giving a small wave. "Yeah, Carrara," I responded, rising to meet her. She nodded, then, instead of taking the seat opposite me, she walked directly into the booth and slid in right beside me. This wasn't standard. It wasn't an offense, certainly, but first dates typically began with a face-to-face setup. I paused, a fleeting moment of hesitation before settling in next to her. A scent of rose water and something subtly medicinal clung to her. "Sorry," she murmured, a soft laugh escaping her lips. "I always feel odd sitting across from people." "It's like an interview." I managed a nervous chuckle, unsure of any other response. "No worries," I said. We launched into the customary small talk, our hometowns, musical tastes, recent films. She never even glanced at her menu. In the middle of our conversation, I felt her hand graze mine on the booth seat. I shifted slightly, assuming it was accidental, a move to grant her more room. But then, with deliberate slowness, her fingers intertwined with mine. My gaze remained fixed on the menu, though my mind was utterly elsewhere. Asterisk, was she actually holding my hand? Asterisk, I turned my head, meeting her gaze. She offered a warm, almost childlike smile, devoid of any flirtation. "Your hands are huge," she observed, tugging gently at my palm. "Mine feel so tiny beside them." I managed a polite smile. "Yeah, I guess I have big hands." Without a word, she laced her fingers through mine. That was the precise instant a cold certainty settled in. Something was profoundly amiss. Yet I didn't pull away. I convinced myself she was merely quirky, perhaps a bit overly affectionate or just socially clumsy. When the waitress approached, I attempted to subtly free my hand to grab the menu, but Carrara's grip remained firm. She requested water. I asked for a Coke. The waitress cast a brief, awkward glance at our clasped hands, then offered a strained smile and departed. "Can you squeeze my hand a little?" Carrara asked once we were alone. "What?" I asked. She giggled. "Just a little, like squeeze it tight, not too hard though." "Just like you mean it." I played along, gently increasing my pressure. "A little more," she urged. "Come on, squeeze harder." I tightened my grip further. She leaned her head onto my shoulder, letting out a sigh as if we'd been together for months. "That feels nice," she murmured. "It's like you're grounding me." "I feel so safe." Our food arrived, simple chicken tenders for me, a grilled cheese for her. She still hadn't released my hand. We awkwardly attempted to eat with our free hands. I couldn't use my knife, so I resorted to tearing pieces with my fork. Then she spoke again, her voice a sudden, unsettling whisper. "Squeeze me tighter, like you want to crush my hand." My fork froze midair. "What?" I asked, no longer bothering to conceal my utter bewilderment. Carrara's eyes gleamed with an unnerving intensity. "I want to know what it would feel like if someone really squeezed hard," she breathed. "I've always wondered how much pressure it would take to break the bones in a hand." I let out a shaky, disbelieving laugh. "Are you serious?" She leaned in, her gaze fixed on mine. "Try it," she urged, her voice a chilling whisper. "Until I say, oh, I want to know how strong you really are." I tried to gently pull my hand away, but her grip, for someone so small, was shockingly firm. "Carrara, that's not funny," I said, my voice strained. "It's just a game," she insisted, her eyes wide. "Come on, what's the worst that could happen?" Around us, heads were definitely turning. A woman at the next booth openly stared, her face a mask of confusion. A hot wave of embarrassment crept up my neck. Finally, with a sharp tug, I wrenched my hand free. Carrara looked utterly crushed, as if I'd just delivered devastating news. "Oh," she murmured, her voice soft and wounded. "Did I do something wrong?" I began slowly, choosing my words carefully. "I think we might have very different ideas about what a first date looks like." She just stared at the table, her expression completely blank. "It was just a joke," she whispered, a hint of accusation in her tone. "I thought you'd get it. You seemed fun online." I didn't want to be rude, but I was already reaching for my wallet. "I'm not trying to be rude," I repeated, "but I think I'm going to go." "Don't go," she whispered, her voice suddenly different, no longer playful, but laced with a strange urgency. "Please, it's just nerves. I swear I'm normal. I just get overwhelmed." I placed cash on the table, stood up. "David," she said, her voice sharp, cutting through the restaurant's hum. Her face had hardened, losing its soft, sad vulnerability, becoming cold, almost calculating. "You don't know what you're walking away from." That sentence, delivered with such chilling finality, froze itself in my memory. I didn't reply. I simply walked out of the restaurant, straight to my car, and drove home in a stunned silence. The instant I stepped through my door, I deleted Zab. Not just her profile, I nuked the entire account, wiping it from existence. She never called, never texted, never appeared at my door, but for weeks afterward, her words haunted me. That unsettling grip, those strange demands, the dead, flat tone when she warned me I didn't know what I was leaving behind. What if I'd stayed? What was she truly searching for? Part of me wondered if it was some dark fetish, pain, submission, pushing boundaries. But a deeper, colder suspicion whispered that it wasn't sexual at all. There was something far more broken, something profoundly disturbing, lurking beneath her fragile surface. Months later, I recounted the story at a dinner party. My friend Sarah, then a psychology grad student, suggested it sounded like erotomania, a delusional disorder where someone believes another person, often a stranger, is deeply in love with them. But even that explanation didn't quite settle right. Carrara hadn't acted like someone who believed I loved her. She acted like someone testing a limit, trying to find an edge. Whatever it was, I wanted no part of it. But some nights, this thought still keeps me awake. If she did that with me on a first date, what happened with the next guy who didn't walk away? And did she ever find what she was looking for? Because if she did, God help him. I never thought I'd utter these words, but I genuinely longed for the days when dating meant a friend setting you up or an awkward, hopeful glance across a bookstore aisle. There's a vital difference in meeting someone face to face, truly reading their body language, hearing the unvarnished sound of their voice before you ever see a filtered selfie. Online dating simply can't replicate that. My name is Jenna Wright. I'm 33, a graphic designer based in Columbus, Ohio. I'm anything but shy. I'll chat with anyone, anywhere, about anything. More than a few people have called me intimidating, but I've learned not to take it to heart. I stand 5'11", and I'm not built like the women you see in yoga ads. I possess a certain weight, a strength, a presence that most men aren't accustomed to. It makes me memorable, but also hard to approach. I ventured into online dating mostly out of sheer necessity. Real life simply didn't offer enough opportunities. I was tired of coworkers playing matchmaker, and equally tired of endlessly wondering if the guy at Target was flirting or just searching for the last oat milk carton. For about 5 years, I was on every major dating app: OkCupid, Bumble, Hinge, even the obscure ones people only mention when they're desperate or drunk. Most of it was utterly exhausting, endless copy-pasted pickup lines, conversations that died quick deaths, ghosting, and far too many unsolicited pictures. But once in a great while, someone would actually stand out. That's exactly what happened when I matched with Ali. He had this almost boyish face, a soft smile, glasses, and short, dark hair. His profile listed him at 5 feet 4 inches, 31 years old, working in IT support, and a fan of classic rock. He wasn't typically who I sought out. I usually gravitated towards taller, older men. But he messaged first, and his replies were unexpectedly witty. His messages sparkled with humor, never crossing a line, always respectful. We chatted for almost 2 weeks before we made plans to meet. The first tremor of unease came when he joked, "You're probably the only woman who's ever made me look like a ventriloquist dummy in photos." I laughed at first, but then the comments kept coming. "I bet you've crushed a watermelon with those thighs. I feel like you could bench press me. You're basically Wonder Woman, right?" It wasn't overtly crude, but it was relentless. I tried to dismiss it, reminding myself not to punish men too early for social jitters. Perhaps this was just his way of dealing with insecurity about our height difference. Still, by the time we met up at a downtown pub called Riley's, I felt a blend of hesitant optimism and a prickling wariness. He was already there when I walked in, even slighter than my mind had envisioned, which, despite knowing his height, still gave me a moment of pause. He stood and gave me a hug that felt more like someone clutching a couch cushion, a hesitant, almost fragile embrace. Not exactly romantic, but not unpleasant either. "Wow," he said, looking up at me like I was the Eiffel Tower. "You really are statuesque." There it was again. Our chat unfolded with effortless grace. He liked old horror movies, obscure documentaries, and owned his own townhouse. He had a rescue cat named Gadget and sent his niece handmade birthday cards. Honestly, I found myself liking him. Despite the strange comments, he possessed a disarming, almost tender vulnerability that felt refreshing after a string of arrogant, aimless men with vape pens and zero ambition. But halfway through our second drink, the conversation lurched into unsettling territory. "You ever pick a guy up?" he asked suddenly. "Like in a bar?" "No, like physically." "Just lift someone?" I managed a strained laugh, a knot forming in my stomach, unsure what to say. "I guess maybe in high school I played volleyball." He nodded slowly, his gaze holding an unnerving glint. I bet you could lift me, maybe even throw me. My smile faltered, replaced by a growing discomfort. I'd like that, he said. I swiftly changed the subject. The rest of the night was short. I told him I had an early meeting the next day and ended it with a quick hug. He made no move to bridge the intimate space for a kiss. That surprised me. When I got home, I debated whether to keep the conversation going. He was kind, articulate, and undeniably captivated, perhaps unsettlingly so. Still, I decided to give him a second chance. I texted that I'd be open to another date. His response arrived swiftly. I can't wait. Do you think you could lift me over your head next time, maybe just once? It would mean so much. I decided to cut through the vagueness. My reply was gentle but firm. I wasn't comfortable with the direction things were taking. I explained that while I understood people have individual desires, I wasn't interested in being a mere object in someone else's private world. His reaction was surprisingly calm, almost gracious. Thanks for being honest, he said. You're cool, no hard feelings. I felt a pang of misplaced guilt mixed with profound relief, but Ali was far from the most egregious encounter. That would be Travis. I matched with Travis on OkCupid about 8 months after Ali. At first, it was just the usual pleasantries. His profile stated he was a paramedic, 36, and recently single. We never met. In fact, his messages simply ceased after a week. No big deal, it hardly registered on my radar. Then, 3 months later, his name flickered back onto my screen. Hey, Jenna, sorry I disappeared. Was in something that got kind of serious. It's over now, but she's still kind of in my life, you know, complicated. I didn't know, actually, but a flicker of idle curiosity led me to chat a bit. He explained they were on again, off again, a volatile blend of intense physical connection and constant conflict. Then came a message that made my blood run cold late one night. This is going to sound weird, but would you ever consider a threesome? I stared at the message for a full minute. I mean, not like now, but maybe someday. We were talking, and she said she always wanted to try with a bigger woman. You crossed my mind, you're hot, no offense. No offense. As if that bizarre disclaimer somehow made it polite, my reply was swift and unyielding, though devoid of malice. I told him off firmly, then blocked his number. With a final, decisive tap, I purged the entire application from my phone. That incident marked my absolute departure from the world of online dating. For half a year, I completely disengaged, pouring my energy into my job, enjoying solo movie nights, and cherishing friends who saw me as more than just a passing curiosity. I wasn't angry, simply drained. Then, one ordinary afternoon, while waiting in line at a bookstore's cafe, my wallet slipped from my grasp. The man behind me retrieved it. He was tall, ruggedly handsome, clad in a paint-splattered hoodie and well-worn boots. You dropped this, he said, his smile genuine, lighting up his eyes as he handed it back. That's how I encountered Marcus. No app, no witty profile, no perfectly edited photos. We built our connection slowly over countless lattes. He was a renovation worker, a lover of verse, a hater of texting, and he called me beautiful without making it feel like a joke. It's been more than 2 years since then. When asked how we met, I sometimes fabricate a story about a mutual friend. I'm not sure why. Perhaps I just want to safeguard something pure, something unplanned, something truly authentic. But if you asked if online dating is a complete horror show, I'd say no. It's not entirely without hope. Yet you will undoubtedly navigate some dark passages before finding your way. And if you're anything like me, tall, outspoken, built powerfully, yet with a tender heart, remember this: the right person won't fixate on your strength as a novelty. They will honor it and perhaps even adore you for it. I wasn't actively seeking romance, but a profound emptiness within me yearned for something more. To truly understand, I must begin at the genesis. During that period, my profession resided in a murky space, a role some quietly admired, others covertly scorned. While strictly within legal bounds, I served as a hostess within an exclusive men's lounge in the heart of Arizona. Picture a lavish, adults-only, members-only establishment. It wasn't outright prostitution, no, but it certainly skirted the periphery of that world. My earnings came from engaging wealthy, often solitary men, all while clad in designer lingerie and heels that cost more than my monthly rent. I mastered the delicate art of flirtation, maintaining a careful distance, never crossing the ultimate boundary. The pay was substantial, the shifts brief. As for the inherent peril, I deliberately pushed it from my mind. In those days, danger itself was a thrill I pursued, a potent elixir that made me feel intensely alive. I was 27, living in solitary freedom within a duplex just beyond Mesa. No partner, no children, no supervisor dictating my every move. My existence was fluid, largely governed by the cloak of night. I'd commit 4 or 5 evenings a week to work, dedicating the remainder to leisurely mornings or endless scrolling through dating apps from the comfort of my bed. My professional and personal worlds were rigidly segregated. The men funding my lifestyle would never be the men I pursued romantically. I held an unwavering belief that, somewhere, a man existed who could offer the deep emotional intimacy I craved, and I was determined to unearth him. That's precisely how Jadon entered my life. He sent a message through Hinge. The instant his profile loaded, it was as if he'd been meticulously crafted in a secret lab designed solely for me. Disheveled dark hair, a charmingly crooked smile, a profound book on Eastern philosophy in one image, and a formidable pit bull named Tyson in another. His initial message was neither crude nor insincere. It was a subtle, dry jest about my favorite movie, cleverly hidden at the very end of my profile description. That, I now understand, was the first delicate thread of the bait. Jadon and I became inseparable in our digital world. Mornings, evenings, even during my shifts, I'd steal away to the dressing room, devouring his texts. He was sharp, playfully flirtatious, and most importantly, he made me feel truly seen, not just admired for my appearance. Our conversations flowed, touching on music, political views, and family histories. I vaguely mentioned working in event coordination, and he never probed further. He, in turn, shared that he was a freelance tech professional working from home. Every aspect of his persona radiated a profound calm, a centeredness that starkly contrasted with every man I had ever encountered. 2 weeks passed, filled with constant texting, yet we hadn't met. I didn't mind the delay, I savored the rising anticipation. But then, one Friday night after my shift concluded, I sent him a message. "I'm off work. Want to meet, Jadon?" His reply was instantaneous. "Yeah, come over. I'll text you the address." I paused, a fleeting moment of hesitation before starting my car and driving. He resided in a hushed temp neighborhood, one of those perfectly uniform suburbs with identical front porches and meticulously trimmed hedges. As I pulled up, his porch light glowed invitingly. My stomach lurched with a mix of nerves and excitement when I saw him framed in the doorway. He was even more captivating in person. "Hey," he greeted, a wide smile spreading across his face as he stepped aside, inviting me inside. The air inside his place was a blend of woodsy cedar and faint cannabis. Hushed electronic notes, unfamiliar to me, drifted softly. We bypassed small talk, skipped the sofa. Within minutes, we were locked in a fervent kiss against the wall, our clothes shed in a rush. My mind reeled, not just from raw desire, but from the intoxicating whirlwind of it all. Finally, a genuine connection with someone who didn't know the persona I adopted for my job, but the atmosphere twisted, turned sinister. Jadon's kisses grew harsh, his grip clamped down. At first, I tried to tell myself he was just dominant, but a cold dread crept in. He started saying vile, cutting words, not playful, not sexy, but bordering on cruel. Asterisk, you like being used, don't you? Asterisk, he whispered, his fingers cinched around my neck. Asterisk, don't act surprised. I know where you work, I know what you do. Asterisk, my mouth opened, but no sound escaped. He continued, reeling off true details about me, the exact layout of the lounge, the name of my shift manager, even a specific detail about a tattoo I usually kept hidden. A cold terror gripped my thoughts. This wasn't a stranger. He knew me from work somehow, perhaps a client, or he'd stumbled upon an old, hidden online identity. Maybe someone I trusted had given him my number. Whatever the path, I was naked in his bed, profoundly vulnerable, utterly exposed. The rest of that night exists in a haze. What happened was brutal. I drifted between awareness and oblivion, not remembering tears, only the desperate effort to hold them back, longing for the nightmare to cease. Afterward, he acted as if nothing had occurred, offering me a drink, telling me to stay. I couldn't leave. I was dizzy, utterly terrified. I lay there, rigid and mute, feigning sleep while every nerve in my body urged me to bolt, but I didn't. I was too scared of what he'd do if I moved. By sunrise, I stole away. I barely recall the drive home. I confided in my co-workers about what had transpired. Their reactions were jarringly split. A few dismissed it, suggesting I was being dramatic. One actually laughed, declaring, "That's what you get for inviting trouble with an unknown man." Another looked uncomfortable and advised me to simply forget it. The two of them recognized Jadon, claiming they'd seen him around, called him cool, and implied I must have misled him. It was worse than being ignored. The sting of accusation was sharper than outright dismissal. So I turned to my real friends, those outside of work. That didn't go well either. They all knew about my job and they skirted the issue as if my profession made my fate unavoidable. Asterisk, you put yourself in that position, asterisk one said. Asterisk, why'd you go to his house? Asterisk another asked. I lacked the will to fight back. The next day I went to a clinic. I needed answers. Was I pregnant? Had I caught something? What had he done to me when I lost consciousness? The clinic was warm and quiet, with mismatched chairs and a small table holding children's puzzles. I sat alone in a corner, lost in my phone, desperately trying to escape the grim reality. That's when I saw it, a screenshot, my Tinder profile, my bio, one of my messages, mockingly transformed into a public joke. It was circulating on a vile local gossip forum. Jadon had shared it. He had taken what happened and turned it into a public spectacle. My gaze locked, blurring with unshed tears. Soft sobs escaped me in the waiting room, my arms folded tight around myself. My test results came back clean. No STD, no pregnancy, no tangible proof of the violation. My spirit, however, lay shattered. Jadon never contacted me again. He didn't have to. He got what he wanted, then he vanished. I left the lounge job not long after. I couldn't keep maintaining the illusion of my invincibility. I still wonder how he found me. Which moment was the one that revealed my vulnerability? What tiny detail? It doesn't matter now. What matters is this. My cries went unheard, my safety disregarded, my experience dismissed because of my job. Because I went to his house, because to them I should have been wiser. Please learn from my mistakes. Don't mistake fleeting interest for genuine care. Don't let someone trap you with empty praise. Don't go somewhere alone just because you want to believe it's safe. And never, ever assume that just because something feels good at first, it means you're safe. Sometimes the most unsettling smiles appear through a dating app. I was barely 21 when I connected with the man who would etch an indelible shadow onto my very soul. In those days, I still clung to the naive hope these apps offered. A simple, almost playful ritual: swipe, match, flirt, meet, then move on. Nothing truly serious, just fleeting connections. I was young, raw from a recent breakup, and grappling with the overwhelming chaos of new motherhood. My daughter, barely a year old, made the world feel like a colossal reset button I was utterly lost trying to push. I cycled through several apps, Tinder, Hinge, and even OkCupid now and then. I wasn't foolish. I prided myself on spotting the classic red flags: men who were too handsome, too cryptic, overtly sexual, or suspiciously vague. I tried to maintain my guard, yet a deep hunger for attention and grown-up conversation gnawed at me. There's a peculiar desperation that settles in at 3:00 a.m., with a restless baby on your chest, making even the most tedious match seem like a precious lifeline, a fleeting escape. That's when he materialized. His name was Mark, and at 30, he was almost a decade my senior, an age gap I typically avoided. But his profile exuded an almost hypnotic sense of reassurance. He appeared utterly normal, not dazzlingly handsome, but clean-cut, contemplative, and genuinely kind. He showcased a rescue dog, a love for camping, and a taste for indie music. His bio carried a profound declaration: "I don't want to waste time, I want to build something real." That line made me stop cold. Most men plastered their profiles with "no drama" or "just here for a good time." Mark, by contrast, sounded profoundly mature, remarkably grounded. We matched on a Thursday. By Friday evening, our phones were ablaze with non-stop messages. It's difficult to convey the dizzying speed of our connection because at the time, it felt utterly effortless, profoundly natural. He bombarded me with all the *right* questions about my daughter, my aspirations, the melodies that filled my home. He confided that he dated younger women not as a predatory habit, but because he claimed women his own age were often jaded or bitter. To be labeled fresh and optimistic felt like a potent, intoxicating bomb. Crucially, he never sent illicit photos or solicited any from me. In fact, he seemed to deliberately skirt any sexual discussion, a refreshing anomaly. He declared he wanted to *earn* my trust first. That single word, earn, resonated deep within me, a promise whispered to my hopeful heart. By Sunday, his messages escalated. "It's wild how effortless this is with you, as if I've known you in another life. A past life soulmate, perhaps this is the lifetime where we finally get it right." When you're consumed by loneliness and exhaustion, such declarations promising a shared life before a single meeting strike with a devastating, unique force. By Monday, he requested a photo of my apartment, claiming he wanted to imagine our mornings together. By Tuesday, he was casually proposing we move in eventually. By Wednesday, he was meticulously compiling a list of duplicate household items, a literal spreadsheet detailing 2 coffee makers, 1 couch, 1 dining table, 2 blenders. He even quipped about needing a joint email address soon. It all felt so domestic, so charmingly innocent, so profoundly adult. But the true emotional earthquake struck on Thursday night. His message read, "I know this might sound crazy, but I'd be honored to be part of your daughter's life if you let me." I remember collapsing onto a kitchen chair, staring at that screen, tears streaming down my face. No one, not ever, had uttered such words. Her own father had vanished the moment the pregnancy test turned positive. I was tragically accustomed to men viewing her as burdensome baggage, but not Mark. Mark called her a blessing. He even painted vivid pictures, helping with nighttime feedings, reading bedtime stories, teaching her to ride a bicycle one day. I had known him for precisely *7 days*. Looking back, I understood with chilling clarity just how desperately I longed for it all to be real. We finally arranged to meet for dinner at a restaurant in Fairview, a hushed suburban enclave beyond my city. He selected the spot, claiming he desired somewhere cozy, a place where the food was secondary to the sheer joy of our company. I chose a simple navy dress and a cardigan, determined to project maturity, not the image of a mere 21-year-old. I was nervous, certainly, but predominantly alight with excitement. A persistent whisper echoed in my mind, what if this is truly it? What if this is the beginning of everything I've ever dared to hope for? He was already seated when I walked in, but the figure at the table was utterly alien. Physically, yes, it was the face from his profile, but the man before me bore no resemblance to the charming, grounded soul I'd spent the entire week confiding in. His shoulders were wide, his eyes dark, his head shaven, but an unsettling aura clung to him. He rose, not a trace of a smile on his face, no welcoming embrace. "Hey," he simply said, a cold command in his voice, motioning for me to take a seat. His gaze, intense and unblinking, impaled me as if he sought to peel back my skin and uncover some hidden truth. My mind scrambled for excuses, shyness, nerves, a slow burn of chemistry yet to ignite, but that spark never came. For 2 agonizing hours, Mark remained almost completely silent. He offered only sparse nods, an occasional guttural sound, but his eyes were the true terror. He didn't glance, didn't admire, he simply stared, his face a blank mask, his gaze unwavering. His unblinking focus shifted from my eyes to my lips, then to my hands, before snapping back to my eyes. Each time I dared to avert my gaze to the menu, the waiter, my drink, I felt the relentless weight of his stare, drilling into me. I desperately tried everything: questions, nervous jokes, moments of raw vulnerability, even absolute silence, hoping to shatter the strange, heavy tension. Nothing, absolutely nothing, worked. His only words, spoken with chilling finality, came when the bill arrived: "We'll split it. No more, no less." I stumbled home, utterly rattled, bewildered, and burning with a quiet shame. That night's sleep was a distant dream. My mind wrestled with explanations, a terrible day, crippling social anxiety. But deep down, my gut screamed a primal warning: something was profoundly, terrifyingly wrong. The next morning, his text arrived, utterly oblivious to the night's strangeness. "Mark had such a nice time last night," it read. "I think we should plan something bigger next. Maybe a weekend at the lake." I stared at the screen, a cold wave of disbelief washing over me. Was this man living in a different reality? Was he completely unhinged? "Hey," I typed, my fingers trembling, "I don't think we're a good match. I didn't really feel a spark when we met." What followed was an hour-long volley of messages, not arguments, not pleas, but unnervingly poetic, bordering on obsessive declarations. "I know we're meant to be," one read. I felt it across the table. Even in the silence, it was deafening. "You're just scared. I can be patient. Don't walk away from the person who'd die for your daughter." It felt like trying to sever ties with a phantom, a ghost convinced it still breathed. Finally, I sent a definitive message: "Mark, I'm not interested. Please don't contact me again." His reply echoed with a chilling promise: "Okay, I get it. Just know I'll be here always." Then, a profound silence. He never messaged again. He simply unmatched me. Yet even now, that dinner haunts me. His relentless stare, the feeling of being an insect pinned under a scientist's gaze, the ache in my chest from unconsciously holding my breath for so long. I never saw Mark again. But sometimes in the everyday world, a fleeting look from a stranger at a gas station, a quiet face on a crowded train, a man in a restaurant, I catch that unsettling expression and my stomach plummets. I know now with a terrible certainty that true connection doesn't explode in a single week. Genuine affection doesn't fixate on you like a predator stalks its quarry. And some men, the most dangerous ones, wear kindness like a perfectly tailored suit, only to rip it off the moment they feel close enough to reveal the monster beneath. It happened just after I'd graduated college. I was barely 23, navigating a temporary admin job at a logistics firm and experiencing the thrill and terror of living completely alone for the first time. My sanctuary was a small, cozy one-bedroom suite carved from a duplex on the quiet west end of Maple Ridge, a serene suburb nestled just outside Vancouver. It wasn't luxurious, but it was fiercely, wonderfully mine. My name is Callie, and that summer etched an indelible mark, forever altering how I perceived the people around me. Like so many my age, I was high on the intoxicating rush of newfound freedom. No more cramped dorms or shared bathrooms, just me, my fresh IKEA treasures, and the endless, shimmering promise of dating apps on my phone. I wasn't a complete novice to dating apps, but neither was I a seasoned veteran. My college roommates had been constantly glued to them, so I dipped my toes in, driven by a blend of curiosity and sheer boredom. I gravitated mostly towards Plenty of Fish, as it seemed less focused on fleeting encounters than Tinder, at least from its outward appearance. I wasn't reckless, no, but I wasn't truly cautious either. My profile brazenly displayed my real first name, a photo with my street visible in the background, and I hadn't even thought to obscure my license plate in a picture beside my car. Back then, the notion that such details could invite danger never even flickered through my mind. That's when I matched with Ethan. He was 31, almost a full decade my senior, but I dismissed the age gap, telling myself it wasn't everything. His pictures seemed utterly normal. He was a polished man with sharp cheekbones and a neatly trimmed hairstyle, captured in a crisp navy blazer and gray trousers against the backdrop of a corporate building downtown. Another photo showed him smiling on a nature trail, a small dog trotting beside him on a leash. He had bright teeth, dark brown hair, and eyes that shimmered somewhere between hazel and green. His bio described him as a project consultant for an engineering firm, living on the East End, working demanding hours, and simply seeking a genuine connection. His first message was a subtle hook: "You seem to have your life well ordered." That's truly refreshing. This perfectly crafted compliment led to a week of effortless back-and-forth messages. He was never pushy, never unsettling. He inquired about my job, my aspirations, and even asked to see my old art portfolio when I mentioned my love for drawing. He noticed the smallest details, like the mug in one of my selfies. "Is that your preferred tea, or are you strictly a coffee connoisseur?" His attentiveness felt profoundly sincere, his humor a delightful blend of dry wit and kindness. By the fifth day, a flutter of excitement stirred within me whenever his name appeared on my screen. So when he suggested dinner, I readily agreed. He chose a quiet Mediterranean restaurant near the harbor, nestled in downtown Vancouver. It was a considerable drive, nearly 45 minutes from my apartment, but I didn't mind. I rationalized it as a good sign, a safe choice, neutral territory. When I arrived, he was already waiting outside, clad in a sleek charcoal coat. He offered a warm smile as he held the door open. I had to admit, he looked even better in person, not in a movie star way, but effortlessly handsome, thoroughly put together. The dinner itself was wonderful. Our conversation was effortless, a natural current flowing between shared travel dreams, favorite books, and even our most mortifying memories. He chuckled warmly when I recounted crashing into a sliding glass door at a friend's barbecue. He confessed to once mistakenly pitching a full financial strategy to a group of bewildered teachers, thinking it was a client call. As the night ended, he gave me a gentle, comfortable hug and said, "This was truly lovely, Callie. Let's not wait too long to do this again." I smiled, promised to text him when I got home, and drove off into the city night, but a cold prickle of unease settled over me. After just 2 turns, I noticed a car trailing me. I dismissed it at first. Vancouver's downtown traffic was notoriously unpredictable. Yet, after 20 minutes of weaving through freeways, the same car remained stubbornly behind me. When I briefly took an exit and then looped back onto the main route it followed, I wasn't immediately terrified. Perhaps he simply lived in my direction, but then he failed to take any of the subsequent exits. I began circling the city on the Trans-Canada Highway, feigning confusion, and still, every time I glanced in my rearview mirror, that relentless shadow was there. That's when true panic seized me. My hands grew clammy on the steering wheel. I killed the radio. My stomach twisted into a knot of dread. I couldn't go home. I absolutely could not go home. So I veered off on the east side and took a circuitous route to my friend Liz's apartment, a high-rise with secured parking. When I finally turned onto her street, the car behind me did not. A wave of fragile relief washed over me. It had to be a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't even him. Maybe I was just overly anxious, imagining things. I didn't even get out at Liz's, simply sat there for 5 agonizing minutes until I felt brave enough to make the drive back to my own place. When I finally pulled into my driveway, parked, and got inside, I headed straight for the shower. As the water ran, my thoughts spiraled. Had I truly imagined it all? Was it really him? Was I just overreacting? I wrapped myself in a towel, grabbed my phone, and began typing a casual message to him. Just as my finger hovered over the send button, a message came through. It was a photo, my car, parked directly outside my home, taken just minutes ago. My stomach plummeted, an icy grip of terror seizing me. My hands went cold. I stared at the screen, willing it to disappear. Then another message flashed. I didn't realize you lived across the street from me. What are the chances? I had never seen this man in my neighborhood. I knew my neighbors. Sure, a massive apartment complex stood kitty corner across the intersection, but what were the actual odds? Then, a chilling rap echoed at my door. I peeked through the living room curtain. He was standing there, hands casually tucked into his pockets, as if this were a perfectly normal check-in. "Hey," he called out, "wanna hang out?" "I'm exhausted," I yelled back through the door, my voice trembling. "Long day, I'm crashing." He paused. "All right," he conceded, his voice unnervingly calm. He turned and walked away, leaving me alone in the sudden quiet. Sleep was a distant, mocking luxury that night. I huddled on my couch, the room plunged in darkness save for the ghostly glow of the TV, my hand gripping a kitchen knife as if it were my only shield. Only when the first sliver of dawn pierced the sky did sheer exhaustion finally drag me into a fitful slumber. The clock read 8:00 a.m., but I awoke to a far colder alarm, the icy grip of dread. Pulling on a hoodie, I ventured outside, my breath catching in my throat. My car, my sanctuary, was a wreck, the windshield a spiderweb of shattered glass, both passenger tires brutally slashed. 3 long, angry lines from a key marred my driver's side door. I stood frozen, staring at the senseless destruction. Then he appeared, strolling towards me with 2 coffees, a sickeningly casual grin plastered across his face. "Figured I'd surprise you," he chirped, as if this were a sweet gesture. "I remembered you like oat milk." My mouth went utterly dry. Every cell in my body screamed at me to flee, to run far away. "Thanks," I managed, taking the coffee, a desperate attempt to avoid confrontation. "But I can't possibly drive to work with my car like this." "I'll drive you," he offered, his smile utterly out of place, as if we were characters in some twisted romantic comedy. I forced a weak, trembling smile. "No, it's fine," I lied, my voice wavering. "I already called my job. The police are on their way." His unsettling smile faltered just a fraction. He remained for 2 agonizing hours, leaning against his car on the sidewalk, a chillingly permanent fixture. When the officers finally arrived, he slunk away, retreating behind his own vehicle like a child caught in a shameful act. I poured out every detail, filing the report. The officers offered the usual hollow advice: hope you have good insurance, change your locks if you can. And whatever you do, don't engage. Just as they prepared to leave, a crackle from the radio stopped one officer mid-sentence. His head snapped up and he roared, "Freeze. Hands in the air, on your knees." I spun around to see Ethan on the pavement being cuffed at gunpoint. My blood ran cold as the officer explained the chilling truth. He was already wanted for stalking, breach of probation, assault with a weapon, fraud, and aggravated assault. He shouldn't have even been in my city. He'd fled without telling his parole officer. I couldn't stop shaking, my mind replaying every terrifying scenario of what could have happened. The next few days were a blur of forced rest. Liz came over and my brother quickly followed. I foolishly believed it was over. But a week later, as I opened my front door for work, he was there, sitting calmly in my driveway. Canada's justice system, with its complex rules of conditions and releases, had let him out on bail, not yet convicted. I swallowed a scream, forcing a brittle smile to my lips. "Hey," I managed, my voice thin. "I'm late for work, can I call you later?" He simply nodded. I never made it to work that day. Instead, I drove straight to a real estate agent's office, ending my lease on the spot. I changed my number, packed nothing, and moved in with Liz and her fiancé. They, along with their friends, were the ones who went back for my belongings. For the next month, my life was a temporary blur at their place until I finally secured a new apartment. A high-rise fortress with key fobs, gated parking, and cameras watching every single floor. Ethan vanished from my life after that, but he didn't leave without changing everything about me, my online habits, my trust in strangers, my very understanding of warning signs. Even now, I sometimes jolt awake, convinced he's standing at the foot of my bed. That was my first and violently last experience with plenty of fish, and the final time I allowed a first date to follow me home. I wasn't always a devotee of online dating. In truth, for years, I despised it. The manufactured smiles, the overly filtered selfies, the hollow three-word bios that revealed nothing real. It all felt like a grand digital deception. But my perspective shifted after I moved to Brookville, a city too large for casual acquaintances, yet too small to effortlessly encounter new people outside the digital realm. I had just emerged from a 2-year relationship, not a fiery breakup, but one of those slow, agonizing fizzles where love quietly slips away before either partner can truly grasp its absence. After months of late nights at work, returning to an echoing apartment, and endlessly scrolling through the curated happiness of others' relationships on Instagram, I finally caved. I re-downloaded Tinder, telling myself it was just for fun. But doesn't it always begin that way? Soon I was deeply entrenched in the habit, constantly updating my bio, tweaking my location during travel, and adding a fresh photo every few weeks. I matched with countless profiles, most of whom never progressed beyond a few initial exchanges. It became mere background noise, a mindless activity for lunch breaks or the quiet hours of night. Eventually, I purged Tinder from my phone entirely. I traded Tinder for Instagram, a desperate shift I rationalized as seeking something more real. Gone were the endless swipes and forced bios. Here, I told myself, was a cleaner canvas of photos and comments. Of course, I wasn't naive. I knew Instagram harbored its own digital phantoms, but I clung to the arrogant belief that my instincts were sharp enough to sift truth from fabrication. Then, she materialized. Her handle was at Collie Jean. A cascade of fiery auburn hair, lips that promised secrets, and a captivating retro pinup style that was just distinct enough to burn itself into my memory. I'd seen her name pop up repeatedly in my friends' comment sections, mostly the guys. Some responded, some didn't, but her presence was undeniable. A constant stream, daily stories, a deluge of selfies, exotic travel shots, and mirror reflections from what appeared to be lavish apartments. Then, one night, a notification, her comment on my reel. You're funny, you remind me of someone I used to know. I clicked back to her profile, a peculiar pull drawing me in. Almost 15,000 followers, yet she followed barely 300, a verified account. No watermarks, no heavy filters, no suspicious links. Just a breathtaking woman who apparently found *me amusing. A spark ignited. I slid into her DMs, not truly expecting a reply, just a casual jab. So do you have jokes too, or just compliments? Her reply landed in less than an hour. A little of both, Callie. Depends if you can keep up. I remember the slow, delighted grin spreading across my face. We dove into a conversation that spanned almost 3 hours, a natural, unforced torrent of words. She was sharp, quick-witted, claiming a PR career, a New York past, and a move south for a gentler pace. She confessed a love for cooking, a yearning for city flavors, and a weary resentment for those who doubted her sincerity simply because she was beautiful. For the next 2 weeks, our digital connection became a relentless current. Morning voice notes, lunchtime DMs, late-night chats that blurred the edges of my solitary days. She sent selfies that mirrored her feed, made fleeting video calls in the soft glow of a bedside lamp, always just getting ready for sleep, and even shared snippets of herself cooking, her voice a soft hum against R&B melodies. I gushed about her to my friends. Most were captivated, a few openly envious. Only Ryan, my college friend and resident skeptic of all things, especially digital romance, remained unconvinced. Have you actually talked to her on the phone? He pressed one night at our usual dimly lit bar. Yeah, I shrugged, taking a long pull from my beer. Voice notes, a couple of quick video calls. Nothing long though. He arched an eyebrow, a silent challenge. Bro, it's 2023, I scoffed. Nobody talks on the phone anymore. He let out a dry, humorless laugh. Just don't show up on the evening news talking about how you thought she was real. I waved him off, but the seed of unease had been planted, burrowing deep into my thoughts. 3 weeks into our digital dance, Callie extended an invitation. Let me cook for you, she offered. My jerk shrimp pasta is legendary unless you're allergic. No allergies, I shot back, a nervous joke escaping me except to red flags. She laughed, a light, airy sound. I only have pink ones. I asked for the address. Marrow Heights, she said, an hour's drive from Brookville, the top floor of a duplex. Quiet place, decent area. I pulled up Google Street View. Older homes, narrow, winding roads, nothing fancy, but nothing overtly menacing either. It seemed fine. Still, a tremor of doubt ran through me. Ryan's cynical voice echoed, * don't be stupid. * but my other friends, oblivious, egged me on. Just don't get her pregnant, one quipped. If she can cook, put a ring on it, another declared. Send us the address, just in case you disappear. I forced a laugh, shoving my unease aside. At 8:00 p.m., I slid into my car, texted her my departure, and cranked up a true crime podcast, a perverse attempt to distract myself from the growing knot in my gut. By the time my tires rolled into Marrow Heights, the sun had already bled from the sky, taking with it any sense of comfort. The neighborhood was a stark contrast to Google's sterile images. Not terrifying, no, but buzzing with an unsettling energy. Figures on porches, children weaving through the gloom on bikes, a distant throb of loud music. And then I noticed it. Not a single streetlight pierced the encroaching darkness. I paused at a stop sign 2 blocks from the pin on my GPS. Suddenly, a shadow detached from the sidewalk. A group of men advanced on my car. What you need, bro? One demanded, rapping a knuckle against my passenger window. I didn't answer. My foot pressed gently on the accelerator, easing the car forward, turning the corner, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. The duplex loomed, older than I'd imagined, paint flaking like dead skin, iron bars grimacing from the downstairs windows. I parked across the street, drawing a shaky breath, then messaged her. Here, upstairs, right, Callie? Her instant reply, doors open. I began the ascent, each creaking step on the narrow stairs amplifying the frantic beat of my heart. Nearby, a cacophony of voices drifted through the night, people talking, laughing, cursing. I raised my hand and knocked once. The door swung open, but the woman I expected wasn't there. Instead, a gaunt, bald man with a scraggly beard and tattoos snaking up his neck and head stood before me. He wore a tank top and cargo shorts, looking utterly exhausted, as if sleep had abandoned him for days. "Is Callie around?" I stammered, my voice tight. He merely smirked. "Yeah, come on in." Every fiber of my being screamed at me to bolt, but a strange, foolish compulsion made me step over the threshold. My gut screamed for me to flee, but I pushed past the warning. The living room was cramped and dim, reeking of damp mildew and a sour, sharp odor like spoiled food. Ancient furniture sagged, and a thick film of dust coated the silent TV screen. An overflowing ashtray dominated the coffee table, a testament to neglect. "She'll be right out," he mumbled, collapsing onto a worn sofa across from me. "Thirsty?" I hesitated, my throat suddenly dry. "Sure," I replied, my voice barely audible. As he shuffled into the kitchen, I seized the chance, pulling out my phone. Asterisk, "Can you come out, please?" Asterisk, I typed, my fingers flying. A reply flashed back instantly. Asterisk, "Callie, of course." 1 second. Asterisk, that's when my gaze snagged on a beat-up Android phone lying on the coffee table. The screen flickered to life, displaying my message, my name starkly visible on the lock screen. My heart plunged to my stomach. "Hey man, got any tissues?" I blurted out, feigning a scratch on my arm, desperate for him to leave again. He shuffled away. I snatched the phone, my thumbs flying. Asterisk, "Who the hell are you?" Asterisk, the phone vibrated instantly. My name, once again, appeared on the screen. I dropped the device just as he reappeared, holding 2 mismatched cups. He extended a cup. We sat in a suffocating silence, the muted TV a silent witness. Then the phone vibrated again, his eyes flickered to it. Mine followed, then slowly our gazes locked. He rose, a slow, deliberate movement. "I guess you figured it out," he drawled, a chilling lack of surprise in his voice. I sprang to my feet. "I'm leaving," I declared, my voice trembling but firm. He lunged, a blur of motion, his hand reaching for my arm. I reacted on instinct, swinging with all my might, connecting hard with his jaw. He reeled, crashing into the coffee table with a sickening thud. I didn't glance back. I bolted down the creaking stairs, burst onto the street, flung myself into my car, locked the doors with a frantic click, and sped away, tires squealing. I drove blindly, adrenaline surging, until a brightly lit gas station appeared in the darkness. I pulled over, parked, and immediately called the police. When they finally arrived, he was still sprawled on the floor, groaning, clearly dazed. There was no Callie, no trace of a woman's presence. Just that single, cracked phone, teeming with dozens of messages from me, from countless other unsuspecting men. Voice memos, clearly faked with audio apps, pictures stolen from a public account of a Canadian influencer. I was just another mark, one face in a long, horrifying line. The officer told me I was incredibly lucky. Other men lured here had lost far more: money, phones, wallets. Some had even been ambushed by 2 or 3 accomplices hiding in the next room. I walked away with just a bruised knuckle, but my trust, my faith in digital connection was utterly shattered. I never touched Instagram for dating again. I deleted the app, removing it from my life entirely for a long time. I returned to dating the old way, slow, often awkward, face-to-face. But even now, every so often, I spot a new comment beneath a friend's picture. The same distinctive style, the same subtly flirtatious tone. And a cold dread grips me, making me wonder if it's him again, still lurking, still laying the bait. Because the next person who steps into that trap might not be able to fight their way out.